I'm Bobby Moore, graduate student at the University of West Georgia. For the next few minutes, I'm going to be discussing designing technology-enhanced instruction for diverse learners. Before discussing the designing and technology, let's first consider diversity. Now, when I say diverse learners, the first thing I think of is like this melting pot of a classroom where you have different races, different nationalities, different social classes, and so forth. And that is something you got to consider. But diverse learners is different than diverse humans, I would say, because people, regardless of their ethnic background or anything else that you would consider something that might make them diverse, learn differently. Like, for example, you have visual learners, people who are going to learn through visual cues, through images, through videos. You got the learners who pick up on things through listening, be it a lecture or a discussion, class discussion, or a multimedia presentation like this one with a voiceover. Then you got the ones who are best at reading and writing, the ones who, if you give them something to go home and read and write a response paper to, are really going to knock it out of the park and show what they learned. But at the same time, they may be like me and they're not maybe the best orator. Like you'll have those students. And then you even have the hands-on learners who can make you something or work on a project and learn more than they would through a traditional lecture or through writing a paper. And talking about technology in the classroom, and I'm going to focus on K through 12 because I feel like most of my audience here teaches K through 12. You all have technology in your schools on some level, some more than others, I would imagine. But you have the programs where the students are bringing their own technology. You have your flipped classrooms, mixed learning, blended learning. You even have online-only classes for grade school students. So you already have in place some of the tools you can use, but I want to focus on why those tools are important if you're going to reach a diverse group of learners effectively and do so without losing either the struggling student who can't keep up or even the really smart student who already knows everything you're going to tell them and is going to get bored if they have to listen to a lecture that caters to the students that aren't as advanced. So here's some talking points on that. Number one, multimedia tools allow educators to create lessons suited for a diverse audience. And this goes back to what I've been talking about. You have diverse learners, and if you have a presentation like this one where you have audio and you have written words too, then you're going to reach basically two kinds of learners all at once. Be through in a response paper and maybe even, make a presentation of your own, looks better than this one that does more than mimics a chalkboard, then you would reach other kind of students with those assignments as well. Which brings me to number two. Options for assignments can allow students to demonstrate learning via their strengths. I'd mentioned there's 4 different ways something like this could reach learners. Well, the assignment where the student would demonstrate their learning, if they're, for sake of discussion, are 4 kind of different learners, why not have 4 optional assignments where they have to pick one, and a student who maybe doesn't like writing papers can do something different, or a student that doesn't want to talk in front of the class can do something different, and so on. Or maybe they're intimidated by creating something to share with everybody else. They would rather just give you their response. I mean, give the students options. And also, I feel like throughout the semester, monitor the students, monitor how they're learning, and maybe suggest to them, say, hey, I really like your papers. Maybe you should consider this option. Or, hey, I really like the design you did on this flyer I had you guys make in September. So maybe if you made a multimedia slideshow it could look just as good. Just find out what the student's strengths are and cultivate those, embellish those with the student. Make it a rewarding process for both educator and student. Okay, number 4, technology-enhanced learning allows students to learn and participate at their own pace, leaving no student behind. Now, one thing that came to mind when I first started this was one of the main draws I like about online learning or technology-enhanced learning is this idea of student-centered learning, where the students dictate the pace, dictate the difficulty to an extent of the work. Because within class you may have some achievers who do really well, who mastered the subject, who, are going to get their really good grades and build their resume for college, and that's great. You may have students that struggle, that have trouble in your class, that hate your class, that hate the subject, and really need to be reached in a way that helps them understand and not be intimidated by the subject. And then you have the in-betweens where they do well enough, they may need a little help, but they're not on the verge of failing. A program that basically goes at the student's proper pace would allow those smart students, or I should say smart and driven and successful students. I'm sure there's smart students that maybe don't do as well for whatever reasons. But you allow those smart students that do well to get through the lesson, move on to something else. You have those struggling students be able to work on the subject at their own pace, where they're not getting left behind if they don't understand the lecture. And then the ones in between are benefiting for the same reasons. Like the class doesn't lag if they understand the concepts and they understand the material and are ready to move on. And it doesn't move too fast if they don't understand the concepts and material. Okay, and then students are prepared for a technology-centered world while learning traditional subjects. And this is very important too, because the students in our charge, one of the main things, if not the main thing we're doing for students in K through 12 environments, is preparing them for their next step in life, preparing them for early adulthood. And that is basically, we're preparing them for the workforce. Some of them are going to go into the workforce right after school. Some of them are going to go to college and get more workforce training. But either way, when you consider how important technology is in our society, how much technology is involved in so many jobs, so many careers, so many colleges, we're basically, by bringing in technologies, we're introducing things to students that they're going to be using for a long time, which is really our job at the end of the day, is to prepare them for that next step. Here's some numbers I found for online education. These are from 2012, but you'll see that at the time, 96% of traditional universities offered online courses. 4 million students enrolled in courses in 2012. 31% of all students now take at least one online course. I don't know if that means in their academic career or in one semester. If that's one semester, that does seem a little high, but I don't know, maybe it's true. Maybe once you throw in all the online-only programs and online-only universities, if they're counting those, that would bump the number up to 31%. But either way, those are impressive numbers. They've probably grown since 2012. So, we are preparing our students for a life where they're going to be exposed to these things, one. And two, so many of the teachers are going to know these things if that many college students are involved in online learning. And I don't just mean rookie teachers or younger teachers that are just fresh out of college. I mean, some of us that are pursuing post-secondary degrees, we're getting our hands wet with online learning, picking up on things we can add to our own careers. So, yeah, we need to stress online learning and also technology-enhanced learning within the classrooms. Okay, there's my references. You've been listening to Badlanders Strike the Set by Dr. Turtle. And I think that will wrap up the presentation. Thank you for listening.